This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the town of North Haven.
Good evening. Welcome to the February 2019 Board of Police Commissioners meeting. My name is Dave Mons. I have Secretary Robin Wilson to my left and Mark Calafiore and Alden Mead to my right. First order of business, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 15th special meeting?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And I think we just completed the monthly reports, but may I have a motion to approve the monthly reports for January of 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. And Madam Secretary, any correspondence?
Not this month?
Okay. So just Chairman's report very briefly. The chief and the deputy and myself attended the budget workshop last week. And I just wanted to thank the chief and the deputy for putting together a 2019-2020 budget that has a minimal, I think, what is it, about a 0.5% increase?
Right.
Which, quite frankly, in this era of, increased complexity in community policing and increased demand for services, I think that's a real coup on your part. I thank you for your hard work and your fiscal constraint. And I'm hopeful that the Board of Finance will recognize that and support our request. And that's really all I have, Chief.
Okay. Just as a continuing PSA for the residents in town, I know this is getting kind of old, but we do want to continually remind them to lock their cars at night. Our numbers are really low. I think we only had 5 in this past month, which is a good number considering what we were at the peak. But these cars are all unlocked, and those are things that can be, they're crimes of opportunity. Just lock them up, and these things won't happen. We also continue to have, and actually it seems like a little increase in the telephone and internet scams, various types of scams. I think the more recent one, which was kind of an interesting twist, was the FBI that was calling someone from out of state, claiming that they had recovered a stolen car and there was a dead body in it, and it was supposedly had this person's identification in the vehicle. So they're looking to verify the owner of the car as well as the relationship of this deceased person. It was all bogus, but one of our residents went for it. They took the hook. And they gave out some pertinent information, and we, reminders, big business and government, they don't call like that unexpectedly. These scams usually have something to do with immediate action. They want some type of payment. There's always a threat if you don't comply with it. Just ignore it. If you want, you can certainly call us. We can document it for you. But these are things that are, they're easily avoidable. Just turn away from them. As mentioned, our budget at this year, our fiscal year, we're trending approximately 2% under right now, so we're positioned pretty well for the last 4 months of this current fiscal year. As the chair mentioned, the budget workshop that we did on the 20th, overall, I think it went pretty well. The The slight increase that we had requested on our operating budget was slightly less than 0.5%, which is very, very flat. But as I mentioned to the Board of Finance, we can't take all the credit for that because the police CBA expires on June 30, and we can't anticipate what new benefits how that would impact the new budget. Okay. One of the things that was in our budget for next year, which I think is kind of a critical thing, so if anybody has any juice with the finance members, perhaps you can help us with the request for the vehicles. What we've noticed in the past couple of years is we've been getting two cruisers, and our fleet has really gotten old. If we take away, as I mentioned to the Board of Finance the other night, if we remove the 219, there you go, how long have I been here? 2019 cruisers from our fleet, and you look at the other 15 cruisers that we are using for patrol, they have 1.1 million miles on them, which is an average of 73,000, I believe, of miles on the car. And that's at this particular time. If we don't move on these cars, next year there'll probably be 25,000 more miles on each one of those cars or near that. So almost the entire fleet would be at or near 100,000 miles. So we need to make sure we keep the fleet, because if not, the next year we have to go back and we got to lock in, and we're going to land up with 6 cars, or something like that. I mean, it's just, it's easier, I think, just to, kind of peel away at it little by little, but 2's not cutting it anymore.
So your request was 3, correct?
I said at least 3, and again, that's conservative. I mean, we have a very good understanding of the economic climate in town right now, anyway. I mean, could we have used more? Certainly we could have, but I thought the fair thing to do would be to say 3. As far as our Benary Scholarship, I do not have any requests at this point this month for any type of consideration for scholarship. Our criminal activity, our uniformed services and ISU, overall, the criminal activity was fairly minimal, I think, for the past month. We did have one overdose with a Narcan or naloxone save. We do have a couple of nighttime burglaries. We got a little rash of commercial burglaries at night. 2 of them were on the west side of town, 1 on the south end. Again, our vehicle burglaries have decreased significantly, but we want to keep our residents on guard and just keep things locked up. The support services and traffic, we did have a kind of a late entry, something that came in as the packets were being put together, and this was over on Rimmon Road. There was a request from a resident about asking for a sign to indicate that there's a curve ahead. When we looked at it, even though there wasn't significant traffic accident history there, the traffic sergeant went out that day when he received the letter, and he took a couple pictures, and I think they were included in the packets. It was pretty obvious that this was more of a windy road. It's got
hills that go.
It's got a little dip in there, and it's got a little less curve, and I think it would be appropriate to put the curve ahead, or some type of indication of an S curve. If we were to be approved the signage, I mean, we could find the right one, but something to indicate a curve.
Is one coming, I'm trying to remember which direction.
There's a sign heading south, I think.
Okay. But it's not a curvy, it's a sign just, right? It's just an arrow.
Oh, I have to go back out and take a look at it.
So they have it in one direction, but they don't have anything in the other direction. I took a right look at it.
Yeah, I think that's at the intersection of when you're going southbound, there's a curve sign by Patton Road.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just a little bit after that, I think.
Yeah, the
Right.
report indicates that there is a left curve sign affixed just above the speed limit sign heading south.
Right.
That's what it is.
And that road there, it's heavily foliaged during the spring, summer, fall. So everything kind of blends in. You don't really have an open view. I wouldn't necessarily call it a country road because it's a little wider than that, but it's something that you probably should give some consideration to.
Yeah, and when I rode by, it was the time of day, there were a lot of school buses, which if you can't see that, you're coming up to a school bus can be dangerous.
Anyone would like to make a motion to basically accept the report and recommend that the department put a left curve sign up?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'd also just like to, thank Sergeant DePascal. I mean, I thought the report was really solid, and I thought those dash cam pictures were great. I mean,
Right.
really, really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I think he did that in particular, I believe, because, like I said, it was kind of a last minute entry. We like to give the commission some time to look at some of these things before you act on them, but this one, it seemed like this was almost like a no-brainer, so in case anybody didn't have an opportunity to get out there and look at it, that was very helpful.
Yeah, you did a nice job.
As far as our records, professional standards, and training, the two recruits, they continue to do well at the academy. Brandon Burke, he should be graduating, I believe, by the very end of March, beginning of April. So his training is moved along quickly. Our other recruit officer is out in the academy in Milford, and we're looking at July at the earliest for him to get out. And we still have one on deck for the April training at Post up, and we do have a seat. So at that point, and again, these are replacement people, and people that might be listening at home might think, geez, we hired all these people. These are the folks that actually replace some of these officers that left to become the SROs. These are people that had retired and moved on, and these young officers are just replacing them. So they're... As far as our radio building, the construction of the new building continues to move forward. There's been a lot of interior work that's been completed. It's really starting to take shape. The deputy chief and I did go out to Ledyard this past week. We did a little field trip out there because we wanted to take a good look. We wanted to get not only a visual but a feel of what furniture is going to go into our building. Ledyard PD is only 2 years old. Same contractor, same architect, same furniture supplier. So this was well worth the trip, just to go out there, kind of see it, touch it, make sure it's. We want to make sure that whatever we get is, number one, it's going to be timeless. It's going to be something that's not going to just be in style for 2 years or 3 years and it's going to fade away. But we also want to make sure it's going to be durable. It's going to have to, this is furniture, it's going to have to last 15 years. We're hoping the building's going to last 40 years, but if the furniture can last 15 or 20, that'd be great. At this point, all the commissioners have been through the building, or anybody that's wanted to go through has gone through. I think as we get closer, if anybody wants to go back through, just give us a call. Once you start seeing some of the scaffolding coming down on the outside, I think that's going to be a clue that you may want to take a walk through again. It's every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. It's amazing to see how much work's getting done. On that same note, the new monopole, our new antenna, is going to be erected on March 15th. Now, the monopole is replacing the 40-year-old antenna that was there before. The former antenna was more of a lattice erector set type of antenna. This is what they call a monopole. It's going to look like a baseball bat, basically. It's the newer technology. It might look a little big and awkward at first, but it's new. And we just all have to kind of get used to it. That's about the best I can tell you. Yeah.
What's the schedule for the building now?
We're looking at probably mid to end of June. Maybe July 1. Well, we got a coffee bet on that. And then the only other things I have left would be for the executive session, as far as just a couple of personnel matters.
Anything, Deputy, from you?
No, sir.
Anything from the Commissioner? From the Deputy or the Chief? Okay. Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So may I have a motion to return to regular session for purpose of adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.